Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's discussion, Why Sales Coaching is More Important Than Sales Managing. My name is Amir, and I am a community manager at BrightTALK, and I will be your moderator for today. I'm excited to be joined by my former manager today, and before I do introduce him, I wanted to go over just a few quick notes about this presentation and specifically the BrightTALK platform. So today's webinar will be recorded and will be available on demand. It will also be accessible through the same URL that you are currently on, or you can also access it through the social sharing icons. Now, if you guys have a question at any point during today's presentation, please feel free to submit questions via the Ask a Question tab, which is located at the top left of the player. We will have a Q&A at the end of the discussion where we will try to address any questions which have been submitted. So today's speaker, I have Branden Burdick, my former manager. We used to work together at a ad tech company called Bizzo back in 2012, and we also worked together at LinkedIn in 2014 when Bizzo was acquired by them, and Branden was my sales manager for about 2 years. So Branden, welcome today, and do you mind just quickly introducing yourself, just talk a little bit about the company you're at currently and your role?
Sure. Thanks, Amir. As Amir said, my name is Branden Burdick, and I am currently with a company in Kansas City called PeopleAdmin, and we are a software company that provides K through 12 and higher education with their talent management solutions. And currently over here, I am running a marketing development team, which is similar to a sales development team, if that term means more to you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Branden. Excited to have you on. So sales coaching is a topic that has been coming up a lot lately over the past 3 to 4 years. And honestly, it's a very important topic, especially for new sales managers who used to be individual sales contributors. It's obviously important as well for new sales reps. And it's really important that I think sales managers are able to provide a systematic approach to training reps. Sales training has to be an ongoing process, and for the most part, and in my experience in the past being in sales, and just in general, I think most companies only train their reps during like that ramp period. So that could be anywhere from a month to 3 months. So I think that, every sales rep as well as every manager has room for growth. So sales managers must focus, more on the coaching aspect so they can continuously empower their teams, not only to attain quota, but to exceed it. Whenever I think of like the responsibilities of a sales manager, you typically think of like setting team goals, forecasting, recruiting, hiring, performance management, leadership, of course, and what I think is one of the most important aspects, coaching. And I think for the most part, in my experience, again, a lot of sales managers typically only focus on hitting your number and, attaining quota. And so in my opinion, I think sales managers must focus a little less on the numbers and focus on the development of the sales reps on a personal level as well as a professional standpoint. So my first question for you, Branden, in your opinion, what is the main difference between sales coaching and sales managing?
Yeah, so I think there's a big difference. Really managing comes down to basically the numbers. It's, watching the KPIs and the activity that your team is doing and in order to hit their goals. So looking at, on the SDR side, it's looking at the number of opportunities that are created, the number of opportunities that are accepted. So you're looking at those conversion rates. So it's just really, keeping your team on track towards that goal. Where coaching is, actually giving them the abilities and the skills in order to achieve those goals. So helping to improve their phone skills, to improve their prospecting, teaching them to use the tools that they have available to get the job done.
Right. And so can you elaborate a little more about your specific approach to sales coaching? What does strategic sales coaching mean to you specifically, and why do you think it's very important?
Yeah, so most of my management experience has been in the SDR or MDR world. So the coaching or training that I do is often the first exposure that many of these young professionals have to sales. And just going into that, knowing that the coaching that I'm giving them now is going to point them in the right direction as they move forward in their sales career. Or if they get into a position, since this is such a junior level position, they may realize that sales might not be the path for them. So then the coaching moves from teaching the skills to the career path. And one of the greatest lessons I learned at LinkedIn, they have an excellent manager training program there, and we use the GROW model of coaching there. And if you're not familiar with it, GROW stands for goal, reality, options, and will. So it's basically finding out those goals, whether it's the career path or whether it's a skill that they're wanting to learn. The reality is, where are they right now, and what gaps do they need to fill in to reach that goal? Options is everything that they could possibly do to reach that goal. And then the will is, of those options, what are they willing to do? What next steps are they willing to take in order to reach that?
Great, yeah, and I think that's awesome that you focus on the individual rep personally and professionally. I feel like that's very refreshing. And so I specifically found it reassuring that you always supported me too as well when we worked together at Bizzo. Because before you even hired me, you knew that I wanted to transition into a marketing role. So you supported that decision, and you tried to help me grow within that function and allowed me to do some side projects like write for the blog, even though no other sales rep was actually doing that. So I really appreciated that in terms of my growth and my development. So speaking of hiring process, so can you talk a little bit about the traits that you look for when you're trying to hire, I guess, the right salesperson for your teams?
Sure, and I'm going to sound really cliche here, but sometimes cliches are just the truth. So two things that I really look for are, that strong work ethic and someone who is, in fact, coachable. I need people that are willing to put in the time and effort that it takes to get the job done. But more importantly, on the coachability side, those who can take feedback and advice from me and sometimes, more importantly, their peers, and apply it immediately. I've had reps in the past that I can listen into a call or a pitch, and I'll give them advice. We'll talk through what they did well, and then what they could improve upon. And then the very next call is just a carbon copy of what they had just done. And it doesn't take too many times of that happening for someone, a manager, to realize that those folks are probably not going to last. If they're not going to take that advice, they're not going to take that feedback, they're not going to take that coaching and apply it, then it's really just kind of a waste of the manager's time to put in that effort.
Yeah, to stay on topic with coachable, why do you think coachability is really important? Like, what makes people coachable, and what do you think makes someone more coachable versus another?
Sure. So I think I just said why coachability is important. They have to be able to take that coaching and that advice and put it towards improvement. And I think coachability comes down to self-awareness and a little bit of humility. If someone's fooling themselves into thinking that their way is the best way, when in fact there is some improvement that's needed, they either need to get over that ego or try something new. So when looking at someone's resume, when I'm in the hiring process, I'm always looking for some kind of experience in a team environment. And it doesn't necessarily have to be sports, but someone who is involved in a team sport, that resume always kind of floats up to the top with me. But really, I'm looking for something where they were involved in a group that pushed each other towards a common goal and was always pushing each other towards improvement.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Brandon. And someone who is not coachable and someone who won't take anyone's advice is lacking like a very important trait or skill that most people in the sales industry have to possess. And you taught me obviously that active listening is really important. Salespeople are taught that you need to improve the way you listen to a prospect, and you need to understand the whole message as opposed to just waiting for your turn to talk. And I think this also applies to listening to either your teammates or your sales managers, especially if you're not performing well, and especially if you have that ego like you mentioned and they're stuck in their ways. You can't keep doing the same processes over again and expect different results. So I totally agree with you. And to switch gears from coaching real quick, Brandon, so just wanted to talk a little bit about motivation and gamification specifically. And so everyone knows that sales is a super competitive industry. And gamification is a good way to tap into that competitive element of sales. So do you believe in this systematic approach? Do you think gamification can help motivate reps to perform better?
Yeah, I absolutely think that keeping a friendly, competitive environment is very important within a sales team. But I think it's important to both reward individual achievement as well as hitting team goals. I think if you put too much focus on the individuals, they will then just be all out for themselves. But if you put too much emphasis on a team goal, then you'll end up with folks who are, really relying on others to take them over the finish line.
Yeah, I do remember specifically at Bizzo too that you always try to reward the team, but also reward us individually as well. So we used to have competitions all the time. And I actually recently found some gift cards. They're actually worth over $500 that you gave me over 3 years ago that I haven't redeemed yet. So thank you for that. And those extra incentives, always helped our team work a lot harder. So yeah, also Brandon, you've managed multiple SDR teams for multiple companies now. So over the years, the metrics and specific activities that SDRs complete in order to get an opportunity have changed. So what kind of data points do you typically collect and analyze to help your reps achieve their quota?
Yeah, so on an SDR side, of course, you need to work very closely with the sales managers, and you have to know what their goals are. You have to be aligned with them. So it's really working backwards to see how many opportunities are needed for them to hit those goals, and so from there it's how much activity is necessary to get those opportunities in place. So I really look at the activity level. So how many calls are my reps making on a daily basis? How many emails are they sending? But then also, I look at the conversion rates. Because if I have someone who's making 100 calls a day and setting up meetings for reps that are just going nowhere, then it's time to step back and refocus their calls, refocus their priorities in improving the quality. So while the activity level is important, the conversion rate is even more so.
Right, I totally agree. So speaking of activity, what are some of your favorite sales enablement tools and technologies that your teams have used either currently or in the past, and which one's your favorite specifically?
All right. Well, we've used a ton, so I'm just going to focus on a few here for you. So ToutApp and Yesware are both great. They are huge time savers. So when you have reps that are wanting to send out 50 or 60 emails a day and making sure that none of these touches are falling through the cracks, Using a tool like TopLine or Yesware is great for scheduling those. You can put an entire email campaign in ahead of time and not have to worry about it until either someone responds or it's time to start another campaign. Plus, you can track what emails are being opened, what emails are getting clicked on, what's being read, and then you can also see, you can do A/B testing with different templates to see which emails are getting the best responses. And then I would be remiss to not talk about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's an absolutely amazing product. And if a sales team is not doing social selling right now, then they are really missing the boat. It's a great tool for sourcing those leads, and you can just keep a constant eye on your inventory of people to see who's coming into those roles that you want to talk to, who's leaving, who's moving up. So Sales Navigator is probably number one on my list.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I've used most of those tools as well while I was working for you and at other companies too. I mean, yeah, Sales Navigator, obviously, in terms of social selling is a powerful tool. Loved using TopLine. Our company still uses that as well, to tether emails and, to share templates with your team and obviously to see the open rates and to see if your prospects have actually shared that email, obviously, with other decision makers. So definitely powerful tools. I think that was that last question I had for you, Branden. So now to the Q&A. So I see that we do have a few questions have been submitted. So yeah, Branden, here's the first question I see. SDRs can be impatient and want to be an AE very quickly, maybe after 12 months. So what are your thoughts on that? How do you handle these types of SDRs, and what do you think is the realistic time to promote?
Okay. Well, that really comes down to starting at the hiring process. You and your HR team and your recruiters have to be on the same page on this and giving that same message. So it's really letting these folks know ahead of time what kind of commitment you're looking for in the role and making them understand why. As an SDR manager, I cannot constantly be working with a green team, right? So if I'm promoting someone every 6 months, really it takes 2 to 3 months for an SDR, in my opinion, to get good at the role. So then I'll have them in that ramped period for 3 months, and then they're wanting to go. Or even if it's 12 months, there's lots of turnover in this role, and so you just need to set that time commitment ahead of time. But also during that time, you need to let them know why this role is important and the coaching that they're going to be getting. You really have to have a system set up, and I like to break mine out into 3-month increments where in the first 3 months, these are the learnings. It's really ramping up, learning the process and the procedures within the company. The next 3 months is becoming that product expert. And the next 3 months is learning more about the actual sales process within the company. And then that final 3 months, if you're going with a 12-month period, is learning the actual sales process that the AEs go through. Now, I typically extend it out a little bit farther than that. My SDRs know ahead of time that I'm looking for a 15 to 18-month commitment from them. And really, I've rarely run into a problem with people wanting to jump ahead if they know all of this ahead of time. And I will tell you, the one time that I did, they wanted to become an AE and ended up leaving the company because someone else gave them an AE opportunity, and within 3 months, they were calling me asking for their job back because they were not ready for the role that they moved into.
Gotcha. Thanks for that, Branden. Let's see. I have a few other questions that have come in. Let's see. So someone else asked, let's see, if you've been an SDR for too long, beyond 24 months, it looks like you're not a game changer. What is your take on this? Do you think people should move on if they've been an SDR for over 2 years?
I think it depends. I think it depends on what their motivations are. I've had some folks that have just been really successful. They've done what they want to do as an SDR and want to continue doing that. If they're not looking to move on to a sales role or a closing role, I don't know if you should force them into it. But if they are putting up the numbers that you need from them and making your team successful, I don't know if I would worry about it a whole lot. Now, if it is someone who has expressed, I really want to be an AE, and they're just not getting there, they're not putting up the numbers necessary to move to that next level, they're not gaining the skills that they need to get there, then I think it's time to reevaluate and take a look at them and see, is this really the path that you want to be on, and is this the right place for you to be on that path?
Okay, great. Let's see. Got a couple more questions coming in. Let's see. So how do you as a sales coach adapt to a changing environment, whether it's the product or like a reorg with the team? How do you adapt to that as a sales coach?
So as far as new products coming on, I think it's really a matter of working closely with the marketing department, the product department, and getting that training set up for your team with the experts to make sure that they are fully aware of all the features and benefits of the new products, and letting them know, if products are getting sunsetted, have them be very clear on timelines there. What was the other part of that as far as adapting to what?
So it was adapting to a change of product, or if there was like a reorg as well. So
okay.
Because we kind of went through that, I guess, at LinkedIn when we were doing just purely outbound, and then we went to like an inbound marketing role specifically. So I guess maybe you could relate to that scenario.
Sure. We just went through something like that here. We just merged with another company and added another group of sales or AEs on board, and so we had to change all of our territories here. And the key to it is just communication from the start. You can't just surprise people with a complete change of territory or a complete reorganization of the sales team. You have to let them know that it's coming, be transparent with all that communication, and then work with them. Answer all their questions as truthfully as you possibly can. I know as management we cannot fully open the kimono to absolutely everything, but you have to be as transparent as possible, and you're going to have to meet with each SDR, each sales rep individually to go over their concerns, and make sure you follow through on any questions that they have. I mean, if they have a question for you that you can't answer at the time or don't have the answer to, don't just say, "I'll get back to you." Actually get back to them with the correct information.
Gotcha. I got time for a couple more questions, and if Brandon doesn't answer your question, we can send you guys an individual email to address those questions after the webinar. So another question just came in, Brandon. So I know we did this at Bizzo and LinkedIn, but do you pair your SDRs with Big Brother, with like a sales executive or an account executive for either training purposes?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Right now, I have my entire team. They are paired up on the national. So we have two teams. We have a national and a regional team. The national folks, it's 2 AEs to 1 SDR, And then on the regional team, it's 1 AE to 1 SDR. And I do this for a variety of reasons, but one of which is it's a great mentoring program. These SDRs are working with a veteran sales rep, so learning how to spot those target accounts, put target lists together, and really work on the strategy of things. Also, it helps to break out those territories and helps with our rules of engagement within the team. So they know they just can't go after accounts that are owned by another AE. And I think you don't really want to go more than 2 AEs to 1 SDR. Once you get past that point, a lot of things get lost in translation. You can get used to working with 2 people and adapting to their styles, but once you have to do 3 or 4, it's going to make the SDR a lot less productive, and the sales team overall a lot less productive.
Gotcha. Thanks. So I guess we have time for one more question, Brandon. So let's see. This question says, how do you create the mind shift in a sales manager to see the value of moving to a coaching approach as opposed to focusing on the results and just hitting your number, especially when your time is limited as a manager because you have your own sales targets and your own quota? So how do you shift the mind, and to get people to focus less on the number and to focus actually more on the coaching aspect of the role?
Well, I don't know if it's so much of a mind shift. I mean, you still focus on the results, but you just focus on the results of what that coaching is doing for your team. If you see someone who is underperforming, and you sit down with them for an hour a week and do some coaching with them, you'll quickly see that their numbers are going up. And so you're still focusing on those results. I don't know if it's much of a mind shift. It's what is it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results. Well, right. I mean, if your salespeople are doing the same thing over and over again, and you're letting them do the same things over and over again, and they're still underperforming, then your numbers, your results are not going to go up. So you have to sit down. I mean, I don't think. If you need a mind shift to tell you that coaching is the way to go, then maybe sales management isn't your speed. So
right. No,
does that make
sense? That totally makes sense. And agree with you as well. I think one of the issues, though, again, like I alluded to earlier in the presentation, is that people just do that for the ramping period, right? I know that's subjective and that's on a personal level, but still, a lot of managers. She always is coaching and training and always helping with either the messaging or jumping on phone calls with the account executives just to try to close the deal and to help them improve, even with people that have been here for 6 months to a year. So I think that's a big challenge that must be addressed, that even if these people are more senior and if they're doing well, there's always more room for improvement. And there's always, time for a manager to coach their reps, even if they've been here for a while and even if they're doing well. So yeah, thanks so much, Brandon. It looks like our time is come to an end. Brandon and I will sort through the questions and message you guys individually. But again, thank you so much, Brandon, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Amir. I hope this was of a little bit of a help to someone out there. So,
I agree. All right. Well, take care, Brandon, and thank you for joining, everybody. Have a great day. Speaker. I have Branden Burdick, my former manager. We used to work together at a ad tech company called Bizzo back in 2012, and we also worked together at LinkedIn in 2014 when Bizzo was acquired by them, and Brandon was my sales manager for about 2 years. So Brandon, welcome today, and do you mind just quickly introducing yourself, just talk a little bit about the company you're at currently in your role?
Sure. Thanks, Amir. As Amir said, my name is Branden Burdick, and I am currently with a company in Kansas City called PeopleAdmin, and we are a software company that provides K through 12 and higher education with their talent management solutions. And currently over here, I am running a marketing development team, which is similar to a sales development team, if that term means more to you. Team is doing and in order to hit their goals. So looking at, on the SDR side, it's looking at the number of opportunities that are created, the number of opportunities that are accepted. So you're looking at those conversion rates. So it's just really, keeping your team on track towards that goal. Where coaching is, actually giving them the abilities and the skills in order to achieve those goals. So helping to improve their phone skills, to improve their prospecting, teaching them to use the tools that they have available to get the job done.
Right. And so can you elaborate a little more about your specific approach to sales coaching? What does strategic sales coaching mean to you specifically, and why do you think it's very important?
Yeah, so most of my...
Whenever I think of the responsibilities of a sales manager, you typically think of setting team goals, forecasting, recruiting, hiring, performance management, leadership, of course, and what I think is one of the most important aspects, coaching. And I think for the most part, in my experience, again, a lot of sales managers typically only focus on hitting your number and, attaining quota. And so in my opinion, I think sales managers must focus a little less on the numbers and focus on the development of the sales reps on a personal level as well as a professional standpoint. So my first question for you, Branden, in your opinion, what is the main difference between sales coaching and sales managing?
Yeah, so I think there's a big difference. Really managing comes down to basically the numbers. It's watching the KPIs and the activity that you're.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Branden. Excited to have you on. So sales coaching is a topic that has been coming up a lot lately over the past 3 to 4 years, and honestly, it's a very important topic, especially for new sales managers who used to be individual sales contributors. It's obviously important as well for new sales reps. And it's really important that I think sales managers are able to provide a systematic approach to training reps. Sales training has to be an ongoing process, and for the most part, and in my experience in the past being in sales, and just in general, I think most companies only train their reps during that ramp period. So that could be anywhere from a month to 3 months. So I think that, every sales rep as well as every manager has room for growth. So sales managers must focus, more on the coaching aspect so they can continuously empower their teams, not only to attain quota, but to exceed it. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's discussion, why sales coaching is more important than sales managing. My name is Amir, and I am a community manager at BrightTALK, and I will be your moderator for today. I'm excited to be joined by my former manager today, and before I do introduce him, I wanted to go over just a few quick notes about this presentation and specifically the BrightTALK platform. So today's webinar will be recorded and will be available on demand. It will also be accessible through the same URL that you are currently on, or you can also access it through the social sharing icons. Now, if you guys have a question at any point during today's presentation, please feel free to submit questions via the Ask a Question tab, which is located at the top left of the player. We will have a Q&A at the end of the discussion where we will try to address any questions which have been submitted. So today's